This is Diego Cordovez.
I'm Adam Schoenfeld.
Welcome to The Scoop, brought to you by Full Tilt Poker. We've had Matt Affleck on for 2 shows, and it's been very interesting to talk to him. And
he's both
the insights,
sympathetic figure, an excellent player, and a good story.
And very honest about his emotions as he went through a very tumultuous main event. So if you missed parts 1 and 2, they are on Card Player TV, and we're going to wrap things up with him today.
Let's talk about a different aspect of your game. There was a hand shown, and I can't remember the specifics, but where you made a giant hero call, and it turned out to be wrong.
Yeah.
But could you just discuss A, that hand, and B, your philosophy about making big calls? Because if
I remember right, Will Thorson opened the cutoff hijack somewhere in late position. I defended King
and
10.
He's very aggressive.
Yes, for people that know, he lives up to the Swedish name.
Correct.
We'll leave it at that.
He epitomizes those Swedish.
Yes,
right.
Exactly.
Because that's important to factor into that.
Yes. So he opens like cutoff hijack, and I just got moved to the feature table maybe like 2 orbits ago, and I had some talks with Ms. Rocky and the guys, and I think they I got the impression they thought I might be a little scared being on the TV table. That was my kind of impression, whether it was right or wrong. So I played one other pot with Will where I check raised the river on him and stuff and got him to fold. So he opens the cutoff. I end up defending King 10. Like, we're pretty deep, so it was pretty standard. The flop comes Ace 8-6.
Excellent flop for your hand.
Yeah, with 1 spade. And I check, he c-bets, and I figure he's c-betting 100% of the board. So I figure A, King 10 high is good a lot of times if he just goes into passive mode and checks it down. Or B, I was going to plan it on bluffing it on later streets, so I call out of position to float out of position, which I do a little more than some people. The turn is an 8, and I decide my plan was if the turn goes check, just bomb the river, but the 8 comes off, and I feel I can represent an 8 very well.
Fantastic card.
It brought 2 spades, so I led for like 400,000 into like $600,000-700,000 pot. He thinks for a while and calls, and my plan at this point was I was firing the river again, and I was hoping a spade would come too because there's more hands I can represent.
What hand do you put him on at this point, having called on the turn? Because is it possible that he's now refloating you on the turn?
He could have a weak ace. He could have. He could have an 8.
The natural.
Yeah, he could have an 8. He could have the hand that I ended up putting him on the river, which I'll say later, which was 9-7, which was the straight draw. He could have 6-8. I think was no, it was 8, so it'd be 5-7. I think was the other straight draw. So basically, his range is really, really wide. He could still be floating me on the turn with something to take it away on the river. So the river card is a 4 of spades, I believe. So it's Ace 8-8 6-4, and I continued with my plan. I think I fired out like 800,000 or 700,000, and he raises to 2 million. And at this point, I don't see him raising an ace, turning it into a bluff, because he's not going to get me to fold an 8 ever. So
or a flush.
Yeah. So I don't see him folding an ace or raising it with an ace on the river.
No, impossible.
I don't see him raising with a lot of 8s on the river, just because there's a lot of flushes in my range. And I thought his weaker flushes, he might just call the river too, because I could have a bigger flush and I could have a full house. There's some full houses in my range.
This is the main event. I mean, chips matter here.
And so the big hand I think that he would play the exact same way was 9-7, and he's trying to rep the flush. And the raise was about 1.2 million more for me, and the pot was like 5 million, so I'm getting like 4-1 on the call. And I start thinking, and I'm tanking. I always tanked for probably about 3 minutes, and halfway through it, I just say out loud at the table, I think I said, I wonder what Norman Chad's going to say about me right now when he says what I'm thinking. I'm just like, part of it was like, I'm on TV, and if I'm right here, it'd be pretty sick if I'm calling with King High on deep in the main event for a huge pot. And I mean, the only hand I'm beating is 9-7, and like I said, I think a lot of his hands he's not raising the river with without the nuts. And I called with the King High. Basically, I think he can play 9-7 the exact same way. He was getting a good price, and he ends up having Ace X of spades. So he ended up rivering the nut flush. So if he doesn't river the flush, I'm not sure if my bet on the river works or not. I don't know if he's going to fold the ace, but that's the hand I was basically trying to bluff him off on the ace, and so I think I think there's a good chance I could have gotten to fold the river if it wasn't a spade. So
yeah, that part absolutely.
Your plan to take it away if he doesn't make a flush is going to work.
Yeah.
Once he raises, now you're looking for bluffs, obviously.
Yeah.
To beat only, and at that point, I mean, part of the issue with the 7-9 is it had to have worked out perfectly for him to have that hand with everything else coming in the way it did.
I did the classic thing: you put people on one hand you can beat, and then you call. There's a hand you can beat.
I mean,
the terrible thing would have been if indeed he had. Well, no, right. If he had a bluff that beats you, because if he has a weak ace, I mean, which is consistent with that play. If he had, ace 4 or something, the river, the turn and river combined are so scary that he could read your bets as being defensive. Like you have ace queen or something, and he's gonna raise you off it, and it'd be terrible.
Oh, that would be
to call, and he's like, I don't think I can win, but he does.
Or and now, without seeing it, but if he had some mid or low pair and decided to turn into a bluff, but I really admire your heart, and I do give you credit for having the detailed thought process. At the time, when that happened, now he shows and you don't show, I imagine.
Yeah, I didn't show it. So
how did you feel? And did you feel like I'm just going to chip back up? Like, what was going through your mind?
It was kind of like I started laughing kind of afterwards when I got shown the nuts. Well, the nut flush wasn't the nuts, but I ended up mucking. I'm kind of laughing. I'm kind of thinking, oh boy, here comes the blow up per se that everyone's waiting for after last year, and I'm like. But the next break, we actually ended up having a break like 5 or 10 minutes later, which was perfect for me. And I was on break, and I was like laughing there, like, oh, I called him with king high, and I was wrong. But it was like, my mindset between if that happened the year before, I would have probably went off and tried to win back the chips basically
immediately, right?
And that was the big difference between the year before and this year. Was like I was like, all right, I still have 40, 50 big blinds, and so let's just play.
I don't remember the year before, and Norman Chad made a lot of references to it. The fact that the year before you were like the new young kid storming through the main event, and that suddenly it all blew up.
I didn't get much TV coverage. It was end up the hand that.
So in contrast to this year, last year was more of an error on your part that led to your demise.
Yeah, I lost a big pot with like ace king versus king queen, where he rivered I had queens versus king queen. The guy ends up rivering a king and a pretty big all-in pot, and I was like, oh god, I have to get all the chips back. I want to be the chip leader. I kept looking at the leaderboard and stuff, and I ended up like with some there's an 8-8 deuce flop where I flatted with 10-7 of diamonds on the button. The guy bets, I raise, he min re-raises, and I put him on a big pocket pair and he's trying to see if I have the
deuce.
Yeah, or it was like 8-8 deuce, I think. So he's trying to find out where he was, the good old raise for information there. And so I jammed it in for quite a bit more, and he tanks for like 7 minutes and finally calls with queens. And that was a huge pot and stuff. So that was kind of like the blow-up hand per se from the year before.
Mm-hmm. And where he might have factored in the fact that you had just lost another hand that were more desperate.
The play in a vacuum isn't even that bad. It's just if you know that your mindset was wrong, being that I have to get the chips back, that's not a good reason to do the play.
Exactly.
And if there's a possibility that they know that your mind's not right.
Yeah.
On the king 10 hand, we've talked a lot about people. Excuse me. People in general seem to show hands too much, especially when they have a good hand or when they've pulled off a bluff. It's like you're giving out way too much information. Did you consider showing just because to have called down in that situation with your hand might put some doubt in other people's minds?
I considered showing it a little bit, but I knew that hand would be on TV kind of, so I didn't show it. And another actually quick thing for part of my reason for calling too was I thought there was a little bit of like equity past that tournament where it's like maybe I won't get bluffed as much because people have seen me calling with king high.
Right.
I don't know if there's any truth to that really, but I didn't show it. I don't know. I don't think I thought about much about showing it, but.
Now your background, as you alluded to before, especially being in school, was playing online and not having as much time for live tournaments. Now, not being able to play in Washington, do you consider moving to where you can play? I mean, even with the live tournaments, the online poker's still been a big part of your
I've considered moving.
success.
I bought a place there earlier this year in Seattle, and so that factors into not moving. I like Seattle a lot. All my friends and my family live there. It's just kind of, there's more to life than just poker and everything. I don't want to move just because of poker, and I'm traveling a lot anyways. It's kind of nice for them. Like, gone for a couple weeks, go back to Seattle for a couple weeks and stuff. So for right now, I'm not moving. Eventually, I'll probably will. But for right now, I'm happy living there. So
fantastic, Matt. It's been a pleasure, and I have
awesome.
to say that everyone who watched was both sympathetic and also admired the way you handled it.
And we're all now fans of yours.
Yeah, the fact that you've had these deep runs. Obviously, there's good fortune, and next year you'll have to avoid all the landmines of the main event. But it bodes very well, obviously, in this tournament and others, that you've got the right style, and you'll knock some of these off, and then be able to look back and just laugh at
I've been telling my friends I left myself some room for improvement this year, and I'm ready to be. I'll be almost maybe as famous as Ivy when I get 10th next year at the main event. So that's my plan.
Or better. So
I'll be happy with 10th right now. I'll take my $700,000 at the start of the tournament. So
well, it looks pretty good. Luckily, you've got maybe 40 or 50 more main events to catch up on. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on The Scoop, brought to you by Full Tilt Poker.